Good evening and welcome to the South Burlington Development Review Board meeting of March 19, 2024. My name is Dawn Philibert. I'm the chair, and I'd like to introduce other board members and staff. To the far left, Stephanie Wyman, Frank Kochman, Charlie Johnston, John Moscatelli, Quinn Mann, Mark Baer, and to my right, Marty Gillis and Marta Keene, who are our wonderful staff at the South Burlington City Office. So we start out, pardon me, with informing you that there are a variety of ways to participate in this meeting. Some people come here and sit in the auditorium, others connect virtually, and pardon me, others phone, pardon me, phone in. Whether you're here virtually or on the phone, it's important that you sign in to register your participation. There's a sign-up sheet in the back of the auditorium here. If you're joining us virtually, please send your contact information via the chat room. And if you're joining us via a phone, please send your contact information to mkene at southburlingtonvt.gov to make sure that you are listed as a participant. In the case of an emergency, there are two doors in the back corner of the auditorium. You would simply exit those doors and head left or right. Left would be the quickest way out to get outside of the building. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of agenda items for tonight?
No.
All right, perfect. Are there any announcements or reminders? Okay. Hearing none, are there any comments and questions from the public that are not related to the agenda? Okay, we will now take up the part of the agenda that deals with specific proposals. The first being, let me just make sure I put this right. Site plan application SP 2406 of SRTB Holdings LLC to modify a previously approved plan for a 10,210 square foot automotive sales, service, and repair building on an existing 2.07 acre lot. The amendment consists of 3,980 square foot expansion, including an addition to the existing sales and showroom and the construction of a drop-off area for the vehicle service department at 1,650 Shelburne Road. Who is here for the applicant?
My name is Tyler Barnard. I'm Civil Staff Engineer for Engineering Ventures, representing Goss Jeep in the application.
Tyler.
Tyler Barnard.
Thank you. All right.
I'm Jay Langford. I work for Goss Dodge Inc. and represent the SRTB Holdings LLC.
Okay. Any other members of your team?
I think it's just us. Mike Dussault's online. He's also manager on the project for my company. If he has comments, he can chime in, but I think I pretty much have it covered.
Okay. We'll have to swear him in if he does chime in. So I'd like you to raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so we have seen a staff report of this project. I'm just making sure I have it in front of me.
And Dawn, I'd like to make a quick disclosure.
Sure.
That Tyler and I volunteer together for the Society of Civil Engineers, but I don't think that will sway my decision in any way.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any other disclosures or... Okay. So, Tyler, why don't you? I mean, I think this is going to be pretty brief. It's really looking at an previously approved plan with a couple of updates and amendments. So, if you could please give us a very brief overview of what you have in mind, that would be great.
Yeah, so the application went through, got approved site plan review wise last year, right around this time last year. They didn't get the zoning permit in time, so it lapsed. So we're back for the pretty much the same project with just 2 notes that Marty has called out in the staff comments that I'll get into. But yeah, so we're here again just to ask approval so they can move forward and get the zoning permit and go construct the building.
Okay, so there are primarily 2 issues we need to be focused on. So let's take them one at a time.
Okay. First issue, I believe, is the landscaping issue. Just that's the cost of everything has gone up. The cost of the building construction's gone up. So therefore, there's a higher requirement for the landscape budget. I think we're pretty confident that the cost of labor and materials in the landscape world have also gone up around the same level. So it'll be a higher landscape budget, but we don't anticipate that we'll need to do anything to amend the landscape plan to address that.
Okay, so there were 2 issues that staff called out to the board, one of which involved the amount of glazing and the type of glazing.
Yeah, so glazing on the building, and I don't know if you've got all of them pulled up. The perspective drawings SD 2, 3, and 4 are helpful for this. So there's black glazing up top that was the architect has called for now because there's a lot of roof, like ceiling mechanical equipment, HVAC, and all kinds of water line sprinkler systems, everything. So if you can see into it, it just doesn't look as appealing, looking into all the infrastructure up in the ceiling. So they're looking for more of an opaque look. And that was just called out that I guess generally South Burlington doesn't like spandrel glass. We were asked to point out that according to section 10.05 D2 for glazing, for all properties in the urban overlay district, a minimum of 75% of the glazing shall be transparent, which they feel that the lower level glazing is well above that threshold. So we're asking you to, I don't know if it's waive the requirement or just, approve with the generally opaque glass, but we're willing to have a discussion about that.
If I could just jump in on this one.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily feel either type of way about this, but I just remember that on the Bourne project, the opacity of the glass on the second story was a point of concern. So I just wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to have that conversation with Tyler. So I wrote the draft findings of fact decision with a condition that it be updated to transparent. But that could obviously be changed depending on how you guys feel. I just wanted to flag it for your discussion here.
So I thought the staff report said 6 glass panels, but I only see 4, or the 6 involve the 2 on the side. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah. All right.
And I also did run the numbers. So the staff report says that 100% of the glazing is transparent. That's not true. That was just from the old staff report. I didn't catch that. With the spandrel on the top here, the total percentages of glazing, 84% is transparent and 16% is opaque. That's the new percentages. That's not reflected in my staff report.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the board? Mark, you look like you're grinding your brain.
Well, I know in the Bourne project there was a requirement for it to be a 2. I know on the Bourne project it was a requirement that it was a 2-story facade, correct?
Right.
And do we have that same requirement here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it needs to have a 2-story appearance, and my personal opinion is that spandrel glass does not create that because at night it's just dead, and even during the day, the spandrel glass, unless you're doing it with like a tint or something like that, still comes off as just being like, you can do a lot of the architectural panels for buildings have the same look as spandrel glass oftentimes, like especially the newer automotive panels like at Heritage and stuff like that. You could interchange them practically.
Okay.
So it really depends on what the detail would look like. But I guess part of me is wondering, and I'm almost going to kick myself for saying something like this, but if you were to do like a frosted glass with like a light box behind it, because I get that behind there with the probably the trusses and the HVAC and the ductwork and stuff like that, it's nothing that you want and we would want to look into, because it's not really a second story, though it definitely has that appearance. It's got the scale, it's got the windows. I'm just throwing that out there if that would be a potential option to, if you went to like a frosted spandrel rather than a solid spandrel.
I think, yeah, we discussed this today, and we're generally open. They just want to get this approved and not willing to dig their heels in too hard on this.
Yeah.
There was a thought that if they could make it transparent, but then they'd have to put like something that hangs down just behind it inside the building.
Yeah, I've certainly done stuff like that, faked upper story window. I don't know if it's putting clear glazing and then a sheet behind it, or if literally putting frosting the glass and then putting sort of like an LED light box behind or something like that.
I hear you 100%. I don't want to step out of line and say that they'll do that. I know that that'll have a cost impact, and I don't want to sign them up for that specifically. I don't know if Jay has any opinion on this. I think it was, if frosted glass with some sort of lighting behind it, I think it's definitely doable, as long as it's not required to be like a light box right there. Maybe if they could shine lights from somewhere else and hit it.
I think it's just to give it the appearance of being, illuminated at night, and during the day, the frosted, would have more of a look of a window than spandrel, which is completely opaque.
I think that is a really good agreement that we can come to.
I'd want to hear what the rest of the board has to say, but that's sort of like a fair compromise that I'm looking at, given the reality of the use of the building, but our regulations require a two-story, appearance.
The only comment I'd like to make is,
Sorry, if you're gonna talk, you have to come use the microphone.
I'm sorry.
It's just, we have our
No
minutes
worries,
taker
I got
is
you.
remote.
The only thing I think is fair,
Please introduce yourself again.
I'm sorry, Jay Langford. Okay. The only thing is fair is it legitimately is a two-story building. Okay, there is a second floor. There are offices. There is a waiting conference room. There's a parts area. So it's a two-story building. So I just think it's clear that we mention that.
Yep.
We did appreciate the way you allowed the company to change the windows. So again, we just want to start building our building.
And I think, pardon me, I think we understand that it's a two-story building,
Yeah.
but we also want it to have the appearance of a two-story
And I
building.
get that. So we're not going to argue in any
Yeah.
shape, form, or manner. We'll give you guys what you need, providing the lighting piece isn't crazy.
Frank has a comment.
Yeah, I have more of a question. I'm puzzled because it looked to me like it was kind of set up as a two-story building. Don't you want to have windows? Don't you even have transparent windows for the offices on the second floor?
It really, there's so much light that comes into that showroom as it sits right now, just from all the first floor places. And the heat rises, so in the summer it gets really hot up there, and in the winter we have trouble cooling it.
Is the showroom full two-story? And those
No, it's all it's all wide open up.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, meaning it's a vaulted
Yes.
ceiling.
Yes.
So what we're looking at here is actually one story. I mean, it's one high ceiling, right?
The second
Right.
2/3 of the building is all second two stories.
So what is the ceiling of that space that prevents you from just doing clear glazing for those windows?
Nothing. We have no problem with doing that.
I think it was really just more of an architect design element to just hide the ceiling infrastructure. That was really kind of the only reason.
But the ceiling infrastructure is the finished ceiling of a car showroom, which
I
is
think-
going to have a pretty finished appearance to it.
Yeah,
You
I
might
don't
have
want.
spiral duct, exposed spiral duct, which is an architectural detail. You might. I mean, I thought that this was like you know, like a truss space with a hung ceiling below that, and you wouldn't want to hide the ductwork that was running and stuff like that.
That's what I was told today by the architect. I'm not 100% sure if there's like some sort of a drop ceiling that's below that hides that from the actual showroom. I don't have the architect plans in front of me for the inside of the building.
That's not the testimony we're getting. What's your name again?
Jay.
Jay. He's saying that
clear windows on the front of that building aren't a problem.
right. So just go to clear windows.
No, let's just give them their
Yeah.
clear windows, Tyler.
Because
All right?
basically it sounds like you have a mezzanine. You've got a railing. It's
Correct.
looking down.
That's
yeah.
exactly what it
Do
looks
clear
like.
glazing. That solves the problem altogether, and it's
Okay.
going to be a far better solution than having that two-story area be completely enclosed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other
Yep.
comments from the board? Okay, so we're moving on to the second issue, which is,
It's just number A on that.
I am the right, all right. Oh, number 8, right, this is the landscaping, okay, we jumped ahead. Okay, this is the change to the landscaping budget. And the increased cost of the building, pardon me, has resulted in increased landscaping cost demands. And so they have proposed a new landscaping plan.
Yeah, and it's not really controversial, not necessarily an issue, but just a lot of new language that I wrote that I figured you should review and then have the opportunity to discuss with the applicant, so that way you can be confident, you know, that's good.
So this was the new language?
Correct.
And it looked fine to me.
Mhm.
What do others of you on the board think?
Just for context, compared to their previous DRB approval, this one is 44% of the total landscaping budget proposed is going towards trees and shrubs. The previous approval it was 40%, so it's an increase of 4%, and they've also increased the tree and shrub dollar figure by over $13,000. So I guess it is maybe a more perennial and grass heavy landscaping plan than typically is approved by this board, but it is less perennial and grass heavy than the previous one and has gone up by $13,000, like I said, in terms of their tree and shrub contribution.
Comments or questions about the landscaping budget? Are we good? So board, do we feel as if we have enough information to rule on this project?
Just have one question. So there was a previous approval that expired. Were there any changes to the LDRs that apply if they're applying again from when they applied last year to this year that would impact this? Because didn't we have some LDR changes that went live?
There were some, probably the open space, but I don't think that applies to this because it's less than 5,000 square feet, right?
Yeah.
So they are below the threshold that would be affected by the changes in the LDR.
But good question. Any other questions? Okay. Let's entertain a motion to close the hearing. Thank you, Frank. Second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? All in favor of closing the hearing for SB 2406, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next project, pardon me, is continued master plan application MP 2301 of John Larkin Inc. to establish a master plan for an approximately 40-acre existing PUD consisting of 270 residential units in 8 multifamily buildings, a 20,000 square foot movie theater, a 22,500 square foot restaurant, medical office building, and a 3,500 square foot restaurant with a drive-through. The master plan includes 4 phases and consists of adding approximately 92,105,000 square feet of pardon me, commercial space, including a 110-room hotel, approximately 281 homes in multifamily and mixed-use buildings, 6 homes in 2-family buildings, approximately 5 acres of programmed and passive open spaces, and extending a city street at 1,185 Shelburne Road. So, are there any disclosures or recusals?
I'm recused.
You're recused, okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Any others? Who is here for the applicant?
I am Greg Dixon from Krebs and
Right.
Lansing Consulting
Greg.
Engineers.
Okay.
Ella Braco from Wagner Hodgson.
And Joe Larkin from Larkin.
Thank you. Anyone else online or are you the crew? All right,
Yes.
raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. So, here we are again. My understanding, I was not here at the last hearing, but my understanding is there are 4 issues we need to revisit. So, before we start diving into those, do you have any comments you'd like to make briefly for the board?
Nope.
No. Okay. The first issue is about updating the submitted phasing plan. And it sounds like staff believes it meets the standards, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Board, do you have an opinion? And do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay. So we'll move on. Number 2, this is regarding the proposed construction phasing plan and to make sure it conforms with the standard. So I think the key.
Oh yeah, I think we just talked about that one.
Pardon?
I think we just talked about that one.
Oh, that's the same issue. Okay, all right.
Oh, sorry. I think so. This is different. That's true. This is the management plan. You're right. This is 2, and now we're on 3.
Okay.
But 3 is the phasing.
How do we do 1 and 2 at the same time?
I think you just skipped 1.
Because we just
there's
did.
nothing to talk about.
All right. Okay. Sorry. All right. I'm going to read this staff comment because it's not clear to me. Staff recommends the board review the proposed management plan with the applicant, ensure that it meets the above standard, and clarify what is meant by the penultimate sentence of the plan, which reads, quote, "There will likely be offers of water and sewer lines, but because the design has not been completed, what will be offered and what will remain open." So first of all, that's not a grammatically correct sentence, so I'm not even sure what it means. And so was there a typo? Was there...
Dawn has said the same thing to me. Don't feel bad.
Dawn what?
Dawn has said the same thing about grammatically not sentences to me, so don't feel too bad.
Mrs. Fotler from 7th grade would be very proud of you.
It's okay, you're not offending any of us.
I got the gist of it.
So what does that really mean? Because the design has not been completed, what will be offered and what's missing? Because
So the gist of it is the design of the water and the sewer are not at a point where we know exactly what would be the city's and what would stay private.
Okay.
And I think that is kind of the gist of it. So basically, if we put in sewer manholes that are more consistent with city sewer, and the city's interested in taking hold of that, then we would do that. Similar with water.
I guess I have a problem with the language you use when I look at what the management plan is supposed to specify. Clearly identify any streets, infrastructure, yada yada, or other spaces proposed for public dedication under each phase of development. I mean, my understanding is you haven't done that, right?
So that's my question. Does this language meet the standard?
Well, so the applicant has specified which street, singular, they're proposing to go to the city, and that by omitting everything else, that there's nothing else proposed to go to the city. The only kind of outstanding piece is the water sewer, and so I think maybe what it sounds like is that you're looking for some specific language to make that sentiment of the sentence on the board meet these rules, and then we can be good.
Speak up, please, Frank, so we can hear you.
Pardon. Water and sewer are infrastructure.
Are you on bright green?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? I think that the city accepts water and sewer that is within the city rights of way, and occasionally a cross-country line. Doesn't seem like this is a situation where there's likely to be a cross-country line.
No.
So could you live with a management plan that says water and sewer lines within the public right of way will be dedicated to the city?
Yes.
Okay. Does that meet your needs, Frank?
Yes, but this language does not, right?
Okay.
Okay.
This is not final language.
All right.
All right. Are we good? Any other questions or? Okay, number 4. Staff recommends.
Well, although it leaves something unsaid. Will there be water and sewer not in a public right of way? That will not be dedicated to the city, or will there be water and sewer outside the public right of way that will be dedicated to the city? I mean, it leaves it kind of loose.
Is that a question for the applicant?
Yes, but it's also a question for staff's understanding of what the rule is.
I think we were comfortable with how Marla put it, the sewer and the water that are in the public
I'm having trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
The sewer and the water that are in the public right of way would be the city's. Everything else would not be.
And is it possible there'd be water and sewer outside the public right of way?
Is 100%, yeah, because you got to connect the buildings, but that would all be privately owned.
And will that be not dedicated to the city?
Correct.
So can we say that as well? Because it says what will be and what won't be.
Sure.
Okay. So I hear in the final staff, findings of fact and conclusions that can be written. Okay. Number 4, staff recommends that the board and applicant discuss how conceptually the applicant proposes to ensure that all principal structures in the master plan area will meet the site amenity requirement and identify if any waivers or board interpretations may be necessary to achieve compliance given the proposed site amenity layout.
I was able to touch base with Ella and Greg and Joe on this one 2 weeks ago at the meeting that we couldn't hear them because of the quorum. So I think we got most of the way there. And so I guess you can talk about it if you want, Ella, but just the idea was that I had looked at that site amenity plan probably 25 times in the last year and never once realized that buildings 4 and 6 weren't showing a site amenity. They were very close to site amenity, so I just never registered. And then as I was going through and drafting the draft findings of fact and decision, I realized this could be an issue, so just flagged it. And then Ella updated the narrative to include a waiver request for the 50% reduction in site amenity requirement for sites that are within 500 feet of an existing civic space. So that's where we're at, and I think it's a good spot. But if you want to speak more to it.
So it's there, but it's just a little bit further from the buildings.
Right. Yeah, the site amenity has traditionally, I think, is interpreted to be on site.
Right.
And so technically Building 6 is on a different site than the neighborhood park. So even though Building 6 touches a giant, what would be a site amenity, it's not that site's site amenity. But the board does have the authority to waive up to 50% of the site amenity requirement.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to. So Building 6 is the one that's just planned north of the Green Park, but because it's not technically on the property.
Correct.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and there's also
Clearly
yeah,
benefiting Building 6.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's a nice layout.
Yeah.
I can't wait to walk around there.
Right. Yeah.
Should we approve it?
But it also applies to Building 4. But similarly, the board approves it, and it's a kind of a conditioned approval that if the applicant can demonstrate there's a site amenity or a civic space within 500 feet, that approval stands. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Good. Any other questions or comments? We good with this? Frank?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think that brings us to the end of the issues that were outstanding. So my question, board, is do you believe we have enough information about MP 2301 to make a decision in deliberations?
I would say I do. I would defer to staff to say, do they have all the information they need to craft the conditions and findings of facts?
Yeah, we feel like we're there.
Then I'm comfortable.
Others? Anyone object?
I have a question about what we discussed about the master plan. The master plan, excuse me, not the master plan, the management plan. That needs to be amended, doesn't it?
It's just the
So
language.
who reviews the management plan for its amendment?
But it could be a condition of approval.
Yeah,
That it'd be updated.
but there's a physical management plan, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And who has seen that? Staff? It's in here? All right. I didn't look.
Busted.
So the condition of approval would be to revise it per what we've discussed regarding the water and sewer. Okay, yep. Makes sense.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing on MP 2301.
I'll make a motion. We close MP 2301, 1185 Shelburne Road.
Thank you, Mark. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Quinn, any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
You will be hearing from us. So, do we want to deliberate?
Minutes.
Well, you need to do minutes, and then you
Minutes,
need
we
to do other business, and then you need
Okay.
to officially state that the meeting has ended.
Okay. All right, so the minutes. Minutes of February 6th, 2024. I was not there, but would anyone like to make a motion to adopt the minutes? Approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Quinn. Second?
Second.
Thanks, John. Discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes of February 6th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. It's carried. Okay. Good. Other business.
Can they deliberate now and solve our April 2nd problem? Like, close this meeting, deliberate on the thing that was just closed, and solve the April 2nd problem tonight.
Sure.
Then we have no other business.
Do we notify public of the, if we're not going to have April 2nd, or is that just the notice doesn't go out?
I will post an agenda that if the item is withdrawn, then I will post an agenda item saying it's withdrawn. If
Okay.
it is requested continuation, you'll have to have a 5-minute meeting and you can all be virtual.
Okay.
Okay.
And Marty or I will be here in person
Right.
Okay.
to
Okay.
just continue.
I would like to propose a 5-minute bio break.
Okay, so you need to officially end the meeting.
Yep.
All right.
Meeting is ended at
The meeting has ended at 7:38.
okay. Thank you.